True fear doesn't always come from monsters or shadows in the woods. Sometimes it sleeps quietly beside you, smiling while you lie unaware. I was 13 when I first arrived at the boarding school. Fog hugged the early morning lawns, and the air smelt faintly of wet earth and old wood. The dorms were simple: 2 beds, 2 desks, and 1 shared closet in each room. My roommate, Weston, was a quiet, pale boy who seemed polite but distant. The first night, I noticed his meticulous nature. Everything had a place, everything was ordered, and something about his eyes lingered a moment too long, scanning the shadows. A few weeks into school, Weston handed me a folded piece of paper. It wasn't a note. It wasn't homework. It was a list. 3 of the items stuck out immediately: frogs, salt, and random food items. I laughed quietly, assuming it was a joke. Weston did not smile. He stared, calm and serious, and said, "Do not bring these into the room ever." There was something in his tone that made me uneasy. At night, I began hearing him muttering. Not random sounds, not sleep talking, words, sentences whispered under his breath, often when I was half asleep. Sometimes I would hear responses, though no one else was in the room. I would lie frozen, listening to words that didn't make sense, a private dialogue with shadows. Curiosity got the better of me. Weston had a black notebook, always hidden under his mattress. One day, while he was out, I slid it from beneath the bed. The majority of pages were blank, but a few contained lists of names, some crossed out, most not. And then, I found my own name, not crossed out. A cold dread ran through me. I realized that this boy, Weston, was far stranger, far more dangerous than anyone could guess. After finding the notebook, I became increasingly anxious. Every glance at Weston felt like a threat. He did not change his behavior, but I could feel his eyes on me more often, silent, calculating. I began spending more time outside the dorm, hiding among friends. The room, once neutral and familiar, now felt tainted, almost alive with his presence. One night, I woke abruptly. Weston was standing over my bed, not moving, not whispering, just watching. His hands were slightly raised, frozen mid-motion. His smile, it was the wrong kind of smile. Cold, expectant. When I finally screamed, he didn't flinch. Finally, he said softly, "You were talking in your sleep." And he returned to his bed as if nothing had happened. Days later, I discovered a small garden snake on my bed. Alive, slithering, waiting. Weston sat calmly at his desk. "Don't worry, they're everywhere," he said. He opened a jar, and the snake slid inside of its own accord. I stared, horrified. How could a wild animal do this? A few nights later, I experienced sleep paralysis, frozen, unable to move. Above me, a dark, pulsing mass descended from the ceiling. It twisted, breathed, and extended a claw toward me. It scratched the bed frame, real scratches. Then it flew through the room, smashing the window. When I opened my eyes, everything matched the nightmare perfectly. The bed frame was scratched, the broken window, shards falling. Weston slept through it all. Weston woke hours later, pretending shock. He accused me of going through his things. We argued. He hissed in a foreign language I didn't understand. Eventually, an RA intervened. I was moved to a new room. Weston was gone the next morning. No one explained. No one cared. The notebook, the broken window, the scratches, all real. Even now, I can't think about that night without shivering. Weston, the notebook, the dark presence, whatever it was, it existed. And I don't want to know what might have happened if I hadn't woken up in time. Some nightmares aren't confined to sleep. Some summers feel ordinary until the shadows begin moving on their own. I thought the attic was empty. I was wrong. Every summer, I went to my grandparents' farm in Pennsylvania for 2 weeks. The house sat on 40 acres, mostly woods, with only a few cleared fields. The attic's single finished room became my bedroom, slanted ceilings, a single window looking into the backyard. It felt like my own little kingdom, a space untouched by adults or siblings. The first summer passed quietly. The second summer, I noticed soft footsteps on the attic stairs. Careful, almost polite. I watched the door handle turn and slowly open 6 inches. I shut off my flashlight and pretended to sleep. No footsteps receded. No door closed. 3 nights later, I woke to my bed shaking slightly. Someone, or something, stood at the foot of my bed. Dark outline, tall, indistinct features I counted silently to 100, trying to convince myself it was a dream. When I opened my eyes, it was gone. Morning came. The closet door was wide open. I had closed it before sleeping. A chill ran down my spine. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe the old house shifted, but my instincts told me otherwise. Over the next week, it happened again and again. Footsteps, shadows, open doors. I never saw a face or heard a voice, but the presence was undeniable. I confided in my cousin Francisco when he visited in August. He froze as I told him my experiences. "That thing used to touch me," he whispered. Francisco described it. It stood at the foot of his bed. It pressed down on the mattress, fingers brushing his face. It held his wrist sometimes. He kept his eyes closed, frozen, until it left. Its hands were rough and scratchy. Nothing like our grandparents, Francisco said he told his mother many times. She didn't believe him. Eventually, he stopped mentioning it, pretending nothing happened. I realized that my own experiences, the footsteps, the shadow, the unease, were connected, and I wasn't imagining it. We learned to sleep early, avoiding late-night curiosity. The attic room seemed safe if we obeyed, yet the fear lingered. Even in daylight, the room felt charged, as if the shadow had left an imprint on the air. Years later, my grandparents passed away within weeks of each other. Returning to the farm, the attic was empty, but the memory of that presence remained. The shadow at the foot of my bed. It never smiled. It never left. Even now, I feel the echo of it in dreams and in sudden quiet moments. Some encounters can't be explained by logic or memory. I thought she was just a neighbor's child, until the truth made my blood run cold. When I was 9, I lived in a narrow townhouse sandwiched between 2 identical buildings. My bedroom was on the 3rd floor, with a window facing the house behind ours, barely 20 feet away. For months, no one appeared there. I would peek out occasionally, but the window remained empty. One day, she appeared. A girl, dark hair in a ponytail, yellow sweater, around my age. She waved. I waved back. She disappeared moments later. Over days, she returned at the same time, playing silent games through the window, holding drawings, giving thumbs up or down, smiling. Weeks later, I woke at 2 a.m. tapping. I approached the window. The girl was there, not smiling, not waving. Hands pressed against the glass, breath fogging it. A dark stain marred her yellow sweater. She mouthed words I couldn't hear. Help me, maybe, though I wasn't certain. I ran to my parents' room in terror. By morning, she had vanished. Curiosity and fear drove me to climb the back fence. I found Mrs. Murphy tending her garden. I asked about the girl. Her smile vanished instantly. She leaned closer, voice chilling. Go back inside. That night, my bed was moved to the opposite wall. Thick curtains covered the window I could no longer see outside. The girl never returned. The playful game ceased, replaced with a silence that chilled my spine. Years later, in high school, my mom explained the previous owners had a daughter, Jenna. She was 11 when she was hit by a car, outside our townhouse, wearing that same yellow sweater. The family moved out afterward. The third-floor room was sealed after unexplained occurrences continued. The girl I had seen was never alive in that window. Even now, at 34, I avoid windows facing other buildings. Reflective surfaces make me uneasy. Sometimes in dreams, I see her. Not smiling, not waving, just staring, waiting.